Welcome to Advocating for Dads with Jana Jones.
Welcome to Advocating for Dads, the podcast where we dive into family law issues and provide practical advice to fathers navigating the complexities of custody, divorce, and separation. I'm your host, Zophia Morales, and joining me is Jana K. Jones, a dedicated family law attorney who's been serving fathers in North Carolina since 2009. If you're a father in North Carolina, you won't want to miss this expert advice that Jana has to offer on how to create a separation agreement that works for you and your children. Today's episode is Courtroom Confidence, what to expect when your case goes to trial. Welcome back, Jana.
Hey there, how are you?
I am fabulous. And so let's dig in and start by exploring what actually happens in family court when a case goes to trial in North Carolina, because I think knowing what's going to happen can really feed into your confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing to understand is the parties. So whoever starts the case is considered the plaintiff. You don't win anything by being the plaintiff. You're just the person who started the case. And frankly, you're the one that has to serve the other side, and that can be a pain. So you've got the most work to do. Okay. Other side is called the defendant. And then the judge is going to be the one that ends up making a determination about what happens in your case, assuming the two of you cannot come to some sort of resolution and resolve things through a consent order. So that's the biggest thing to understand is who are the parties and what are we doing?
All right. And what should be our expectation around like the time period over something like this plays out?
So it really does vary. I know nobody likes that attorney answer, but it's true. It depends on the complexities of your case. It depends on the types of matters that you're dealing with. You know, obviously, if you're dealing with a contested divorce case like equitable distribution and alimony, but there are no children involved, so you do not have to deal with custody or child support issues, or maybe your children are already over 18 and graduated from high school, and so it's not going to be relevant to the case, then that's going to take a different track, and it's going to be a different timeline than if you're dealing with all of the issues. You're dealing with equitable distribution, you're dealing with alimony, you're dealing with custody, you're dealing with child support. Each of those matters takes different tracks. And because of that, overall, the case can easily, if you're dealing with all the issues, take well over a year to 2 years to resolve.
Well, that kind of brings me to the next point, which is how can a father prepare emotionally and legally for a custody or a divorce hearing? I know guys a lot of times don't want to talk about the emotional side of things, but I find that does come forward when you're going through something extreme like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I'm an attorney, and so my background is going to be the legal side of things. I'm not a therapist, but I do my best to try to understand the emotions that my clients are going through, because this is obviously a very emotional time. So as far as the legal side, you want to make sure that you have solid legal advice and that you truly understand exactly what's going on in your case. From an emotional perspective, I think it's always going to be helpful to have a therapist. You know, a divorce, or even if you are in a long-term relationship and co-parenting and now you're separating, can feel like a death. And that's something that's going to be very traumatic to go through. And the courts are not the venue to fix that. That is going to take therapy. That's going to take Jesus. So you're going to need to, take care of your mental health and your emotional well-being by seeking someone who is able to speak to that particular side of the end of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, and I can see where having a place where you can let those kind of emotions out can actually reduce your legal bills, because you make better decisions when you're not in the heat and the seat of those emotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. So what are some of the most common mistakes you see people make during trial, and how can you avoid some of these?
So I think the most common mistake everybody makes during trial is hearsay, because it's just very easy to do. We live life in the real world. And in the real world, some of the information that you get comes from firsthand knowledge, and some of it comes from secondhand knowledge. But in the courtroom, the only thing that you can testify to is to what someone has told you directly, something that you've told someone directly, or something that someone else in the courtroom has said, because they have to have the ability to get on the stand and say, yes, I said that, or no, I didn't. Right. When that person isn't there, say a doctor, a therapist, social worker, if they're not in the courtroom, if they're not going to be available to testify as to the truth of what you're saying, then unfortunately, whatever you want to tell the court they told you is going to be hearsay. And that typically is the hardest thing for clients to be able to wrap their brain around, because a lot of times the information that you get comes from a secondhand source.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I got this report from the school or from the psychologist who's working with the kids. Yeah, I can see where that would be really hard to provide answers without going down that road of, well, this professional told me this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And let's talk about who we would be interacting with in the courtroom itself. Obviously, you've got your lawyer. Who else is there? A judge, the opposing counsel? What else?
Exactly. So you're going to have the judge who is going to make the decision about what's going on in your case. There's usually going to be a clerk in there, his or her clerk, that's going to help facilitate the actual courtroom experience. Typically, there's going to be a deputy there that can do whatever the judge needs done. If somebody needs to be held in contempt or taken in the back, etc. And then you've got the parties themselves, and if they have attorneys, their attorneys. In the courtroom as well may be additional witnesses.
Do you expect the children to be involved in this in any way, or they're pretty much kept separate?
So generally speaking, the court does not like to get children involved in these cases. The judge is supposed to determine the best interest of the child, but they do that without the child's involvement. And they do that by the information that is given by the parents or collateral sources. Some judges will be willing to speak to children in chambers, but that really is case specific and judge specific. It is not always allowed. And some judges will say simply that they do not talk to children. So if you're in that scenario, or if you have that type of judge, then it's unlikely that you're going to be able to hear from the child. If the judge is willing to talk to the child, the ideal way to do that is going to be in chambers, so that that child does not actually have to testify and they're able to speak freely to the judge.
It sounds like that'd be a lot less stressful as well.
Absolutely.
So when you're thinking about putting together your side of things, what kind of evidence or behaviors carry the most weight with judges?
So the most important thing that you can do is just to be honest and be straightforward and be truthful. The court can kind of tell when someone is fudging and when they're telling the truth, and you want to come across very clear in your answers and very honest and candid. You want to own any mistakes that you've made, and you definitely want to come across as the parent who is going to be the most committed to a helpful and healthy co-parenting relationship with the other parent.
Okay, so that gives you the edge in the decision of most judges if you
Absolutely
present yourself that way. I like that.
Yeah, because they know that ultimately, you can't come to the court every time there's an issue. And so they have to trust that the person that they're giving perhaps primary physical custody to is going to be the parent who has the child's best interest at mind, not is looking for ways to get back at the other party.
So getting down to brass tacks on this whole thing, how does billing work for family law litigation? Can you explain flat fees versus hourly billing and what clients can generally expect?
Sure. So there's two general types of models. There's flat fees and there's hourly. Hourly billing is going to be a situation where a client is paying an attorney a certain amount of money that is still that client's money, and it goes into the attorney's trust account. And that attorney and their various staff are billing against it at their various hourly rates. And when they run low or when they run down to a certain amount, they're going to ask the client for more money. And if that client does not have the money to replenish the account, they're going to withdraw from the case, regardless of where you are in the situation.
Yikes.
Yes. That can be pretty traumatic for folks.
Yeah.
By contrast, there's flat fee or subscription pricing. So flat fee is where there is one price that you're paying in full up front to cover a certain service or matter. And subscription billing is where you pay a set flat fee rate per month or per week, or however the subscription is set up, in a way where you know exactly what you're getting and exactly how much it's going to cost you.
I like the sound of that, I have to say.
Absolutely, as do I, which is why my firm only does flat fee and subscription billing. About 5 years ago, I stopped doing any hourly billing, and I've been flat fee and subscription ever since. And I've seen an uptick in my clients' satisfaction when it comes to billing because of that, because they already know what it's going to cost them. They've either already paid my fee in full up front and there's nothing else for them to pay, or they're paying a subscription and they know exactly what they're going to have to pay and when it's going to be due.
Yeah, I like that. Well, and we did an earlier episode where we go into great detail on the exceptions that might arise around professionals who are providing evidence and things that aren't actually attorney fees. So
Exactly.
I definitely recommend y'all check out that episode as well. Let's see. Any last words of wisdom for fathers who are preparing to go to trial?
So have your evidence together. Have your text messages, have your emails. But the most important thing you can do is talk to a family law attorney so you understand how your specific fact pattern will likely be considered in front of a judge. And that's something that you can't know without talking to someone who does this for a living. So if you cannot afford legal services for your entire case, at a minimum, I do suggest always doing a consultation with an attorney. And I've had folks come to me for a consultation who could not afford full legal services and representation and come back multiple times for multiple consultations. I actually just had one today. It was my 5th consult with the same couple because they can't afford the legal services, but they wanted to get feedback about how various hearings had gone and things to expect as their case progresses forward. And I'm more than happy to do that. So absolutely get that consultation because you don't know what you don't know.
Amen. And what you don't know will come back to bite you.
It can. It really can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom and insight today, Jana.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Zophia.
Thank you for joining us on Advocating for Dads with experienced family law attorney Jana K. Jones. To connect with Jana, head to lawofficeofjkj.com and make sure to like, subscribe, review, and share with the people you care about.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this one.